Hi, I'm retired NYPD Detective Vic Ferrari, and welcome to NYPD Through the Looking Glass podcast, where you get unique insight into the New York City Police Department. Before we get started, I encourage you to check out my Amazon author page, where you'll find my series of behind-the-scenes NYPD books. They're $10 paperback or $2.99 ebook download, including my latest NYPD Presumption and Dysfunction. I'm really excited about today's guest. He's retired NYPD Detective Jason Caputo. He's also vice president and co-chairman of the Police Officer Edward Byrne Foundation. Jason, welcome to the show. So, Jason, tell us a little something about yourself.
I grew up in Queens, East Side for that matter. I was a correction officer in 2001, the 9/11 class. When the towers fell, I was actually doing uniform inspection. I was on Rikers Island for 3 years. Then I went into the police academy. Upon graduation, I was sent to the 7-5 precinct, where I did foot patrol, FTU. I did patrol, SNU. And then in 2010, I went to the Organized Crime Control Bureau, auto crime. And after 3 years from there, I went on to the 105 squad, where I ended my career after 7.5 years there.
Well, we're going to talk about today what I find fascinating, but let's go back 37 years. On February 26, 1988, police officer Edward Byrne was gunned down as he sat alone in his radio car protecting the home of a man who provided police with information about narcotics activity in his neighborhood. Jason, could you give us some insight into that murder, the aftermath, and the work you do with the Edward Byrne Foundation?
Absolutely. So on February 25th, 1988, Edward Byrne was in NSU. He was assigned to the 103 precinct. At the time, there were very famous drug dealers, Fat Cat Nichols, Pappy Mason, and there had been a person in the neighborhood that decided that he wasn't going to be terrorized anymore, and he was going to testify against these individuals. They firebombed his house a couple of times, so the NYPD decided to put a fixer post outside, marked RMP with a uniformed officer. Pappy Mason had been picked up on a minor drug charge, and he wasn't happy about that, so he called one of his lieutenants in the drug gang and ordered them to kill a police officer in uniform. They were paid $8,000 each. It was 3 individuals, including the one that told them to do it. That night, Eddie's in the car, about 3 o'clock in the morning. They drive by him, park the car. 2 gentlemen get out. One knocks on the window on the passenger side, Scott Cobb, and then David Clary shoots 5 rounds into the car, hitting Eddie in the head with all 5 rounds. After that, a huge manhunt. Within 6 days, all the individuals were captured. People in the neighborhood were throwing each other under the bus. A prostitute, a member of the drug gang actually identified them as well as being in the apartment when they got the order to kill a cop. Unfortunately, at the age of 22 years old and only 7 months on the job, Eddie died at the scene. After that, his vehicle that he was in was taken as evidence and brought to the West Side Highway, where the old barrier section was. It sat there for many years. When the city sold the property and developed it at Chelsea Piers, the car was moved to College Point, where it sat at the auto pound, uncovered in weather for 9 years. Then that property is sold to be built a new police academy. The car's got to be moved again. They moved to Erie Basin in Brooklyn, where it sat in a building. Then a commanding officer there at one time had moved the car out into at the end of the pier, so it was exposed to the salt water. Then the car was moved back into the building, and then Hurricane Sandy had hit in 2012. The car was flooded up to the roof line. It sat underwater for like approximately 5 days. After the water was receded, the car basically started to rot in a really, I want to say, accelerated rate. Yeah. Everything started to freeze over. You couldn't move the wheels anymore, so the job started moving the car with a forklift. And in doing so, they caused more damage. Fast forward to 2022 or 23, when they had the fire in Red Hook. Eddie's car caught on fire, along with a few other cars that cops were killed in. Earlier, I had an idea to save this car from its demise. Unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears for many years, and a couple of police commissioners didn't want to really touch the subject. So recently, we had a new police commissioner come in, and then we also had a new person become head of the Detectives Endowment Association, Scotty Monroe. He had been my delegate when I was in auto crime. Yeah. And he was an auto crime detective for many years. Once he assumed the position, he had heard what my idea was and got the ball rolling in the right direction. And after speaking to him and making arrangements, I was in possession of the vehicle a few weeks later with the approval of the Legal Bureau, the Queens District Attorney's Office, the family, and we're planning to turn the car into a memorial as well as a learning device for future cops at the police academy. So they'll see that sitting there, and they'll know that we drove blue cars and that Eddie was in uniform that night, and a young kid, and he was targeted because of his uniform. And my thing is always to tell everybody, it's a great job. It's a noble job. But at the end of the day, it's still a dangerous job. But I think it's the greatest job in the world. Like I've told you, it provided very well for me and my family, and I'm still, engulfed in it in a way as a retiree. I try to take care of the widows and children. I try to do as much as I can. If a person passes away, I do their wake or their funeral. I'll just show up out of the blue, not even requested, and just pay my respects. Because at the end of the day, we're all brothers in blue. Everybody asked me, did you know Eddie? And I said, no, I lived in Queens. I was born in Queens. I lived there my whole life until I moved out to Long Island. And I said, at the end of the day, he's my brother. We wear the same uniform. We patrolled the same streets. And, he was just taken too soon. That's all. And through the DEA, we have set up a foundation, the Eddie Byrne Foundation. We take in money through Fund the First. And we also sell shirts, one of them behind me and one I'm wearing. And we try to raise money for the project. Whatever money we don't use on the vehicle itself is going to go towards a scholarship fund in Eddie's name at Plain Edge High School, where he went to school on Long Island. So nobody is making a dime. It's all voluntary. I have a few Nassau County detectives and a few NYPD detectives, as well as the police commissioner of the Nassau County Police Department, Ryder, has provided us a facility to work on the vehicle, which was huge because I don't have to travel back and forth to the city from Long Island to fix this car. And that's basically where we're at with that.
Do you have any idea of what the cost of the restoration will be?
At the time when I first saw the car, we had estimated it at $30,000, but I believe we are going to move past that. We have some stuff that has been given to us for the car, but the damage done to the vehicle once we tore into it revealed a lot more. The car is never going to run again because the engine was seized from flooding. However, we did make the engine look like it's brand new. The amount of damage is extensive, but we did order some new parts, and we are retaining as much as we possibly can from that night that Eddie was sitting in those seats. So, I'm thinking the whole cost of the build is going to be about $50,000 when we're done, because we still have to worry about the display at the police academy. We'd like to keep it behind glass. We don't want people going up to the vehicle, trying to open the doors and stuff. So that's a huge, because you know how cops are. We're our own worst enemy when it comes to that.
Right. Everyone's going to want to touch it. I get it.
Yeah. Yes.
So where can our listeners donate to this restoration project? Do you have a website?
We have a Facebook page at the moment. We're up and running with a website. We're having some problems with it, but the fundthefirst.com is, you can Google Eddie Byrne and it'll pop up. We have that set up where that money goes towards the vehicle. And the Facebook page, you could also get shirts from us. The small through extra larges are $25, and the 2X and 3Xs are $30. They have the shield on the front with the foundation, and they have the, I don't know if you can see my back, the vehicle on my back. It's the crime scene photo.
It's over your car, too. It's over,
yes, it's over my
the
car
RMP.
right there, yes. And I'll show you. I'm sorry, I don't know why I got up, but there you go. This is the back.
Good. It looks.
It basically tells the story, because that's where I was parked that night, the way it was.
And people can order that shirt on Facebook?
Yes, sir. They could direct message me through the foundation. And we had the foundation has a chat where people have been ordering shirts. And then if I can, you just have to bear with me I'm the only one doing it. So if they want to be shipped, I can ship, but it just takes a little bit of time to get to the post office and stuff. So
what's that Facebook? What's the Facebook page called again?
Police Officer Edward Byrne Foundation.
You brought up the history behind that RMP, and for guys that aren't cops, RMP and the NYPD is Radio Motor Patrol. I remember early in my career going out to barrier detail out in the piers, and seeing that car out there, and just everybody would just go over to it and just kind of stare at it in amazement. And then they also had police officers Scarangel and Rainey's RMP out there. And then those two guys were ambushed by members of the Black Liberation Army. And the van, they had the van that the Black Liberation Army also with Joanne Chesimard used to shoot up those two cops. And then later on, like you said, that car has been at the pound. I used to see it out there. So it's well traveled, and it's really been through quite a bit.
Yes. My only gripe, I believe, with this whole situation is I was at the property clerk division for like 10 months of my career. Not a great time in my career, but nonetheless, I was there and I learned a lot. I didn't really agree with the caretaking of certain things, especially when it came to cops. Vehicles that were just sitting outside full of rust, damaged. Anybody could just go near them, throw garbage in it if you were walking by it. I just believe that they should have had, for such a high-profile murder and what Eddie's death led to in the job, and the crime bill of '88 and presidents calling the family, that car should have been locked away in a trailer, for that matter, or something, and safe kept. You call it evidence. You can't get a piece of evidence out of that car. God forbid you needed to bring it back to trial. And I imagine the same thing with Scaringella and Rainey or that van. And to this day, they can't find the vehicle that was involved in the Foster and Laurie murder. They can't find out where it is. There was a car, that the Chrysler Imperial, and it was parked at the old police academy. They dusted it for fingerprints back in 1972. Now you have DNA technology. They're looking for the car. They can't find it. So it's, and I knew the cold case detective on that, and he had said that he put out a wanted flyer for the vehicle. And I knew a few people at the property clerk, and they scoured every location, and they can't find that car to get the DNA off the steering wheel or the door handles. So, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, you know what I mean? There's so many different places across the city, not just one location for property. So,
well, you're talking about that, or Scaringella and Rainey with that van. Joanne Chesimard is alive and well in Cuba.
Yeah, well,
and, you know, especially with somebody like Trump in office, she might be coming back here one day. I mean, I always keep my fingers crossed, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, that is evidence, and they would take that to trial. And then
huge, it's the getaway car.
Yeah, I know.
And they had their firearms in them. After they shot them with their firearms, they took them. You know, we could also, you touched on John Scaringella. I'm actually friends with his son. He was a Port Authority police officer who just got 3 quarters. Great guy. Small world. I'm in the 105 squad, and we got a call for a DOA one day. And one of our cops, he's on track. He wasn't a detective yet. We sent him because we just did regular DOA. Turns out it's Rainey. He goes into the guy's house, and there's a picture of him in uniform on the wall. He calls the office. He goes, I'm going to need a couple of gold shields down here. I can't do this. The family, this is, I think, a big deal. And it turned out it was Rainey. He passed away of a heart attack. Still had lead in him from that day.
Yeah.
He lived alone at home, you know, and then we handled that with extreme dignity. Not that we wouldn't do any old DOA, but, you know, when it comes to being a line of, you know, he was shot and, you know, his partner died in 81. We you know, notified all the right people with that one. So, very weird.
Before you came on the job, you worked on the infamous Rikers Island. What was that like?
Shelter shock. I had been a mechanic at American Airlines, and their union sucked. So I actually had to get out of that if I ever wanted to really start a family. So I had taken the city test. I had been called by the NYPD, but then they started asking for college, and I was one of those high school. I had college, but I didn't have enough. Apparently, you needed 60. And I had like in the 50s credits. So I had to go back to school. But corrections had called me. All they wanted was a high school diploma. So I went. And my parents thought I was out of my mind going to work at Rikers Island. Because, you know, I'm 5'7". I'm 170 pounds. So I go, and I always take everything seriously. I try to take care of my uniforms and everything else. So I do that job. I was in OBCC and CPSU, which is Central Punitive Segregation Unit. It's basically the inmates are locked up 23 hours a day. They come out for 1 hour for the yard. They got to be handcuffed to take a shower. Very interesting world. I would also do TSOs, which was tactical search operations, in every jail on Rikers Island because there's 11 jails there. And that was where at 5 a.m. But the whole process of going to Rikers, going to work every day, and on your first and your last, they'd make you stay. So you're there 18 hours. And then you have to get in your car. You got to wait for a bus to take you to your car, then to go over the bridge, then maneuver to Grand Central to go home. It was an experience. I just could not see myself doing that for 20 years. And when I finally, Rikers Island had a John Jay College on Rikers Island for free for officers. So I was able to go there and get my credits. And my investigator finally called me, and I went over. But the 3 years, I got to say that the people that I met over there, the officers I did work with, a bunch of them I'm still in contact with. I'd go through a brick wall for them. It was interesting going back to the island as a detective to pick up prisoners and run into some people that I knew. And they saw that I had the gold shield, and they goes, "Oh, we figured you'd get that too." So, because the way I always went about my business, you know, I'm all, whatever capacity I could serve, I'm there. You know, a very interesting job. But just like I said, I couldn't stay there 20 years.
Did you have did you have to deal with any famous or high profile inmates?
There were a few NYPD cops that were arrested. I don't know the names. They put them in lockdown. Yeah, that didn't sit too well with me. Some of the people I worked with, they didn't bother them. Other than that, not the worries. They don't tell you a lot of things about the people, but I try to find out information, especially when the guys go to court and they're coming back. And some of these guys that were high-profile cases that are facing, like, life in jail, because you know when they come back to Rikers waiting a bed upstate, they're not going to give a shit. They'll punch you in the face as an officer, anything to just let the day pass. We had inmates that would just get into a fight with you because They were used to getting their ass kicked in the streets, and they were bored. And they would just, I'm going to fuck with this guy today. And they would hold the slot for the food, or they would throw piss and shit on you. I never had that done to me. I never had that done to me. I've seen people get piss and shit thrown on them, but never me. I always treated people with respect, and I expected it in return. You know? Address me as officer. Don't call me yo, bro. I'm not your brother. So that's the way I was. And then, like I said, I think 3 years, June 6th, I got sworn in, 2001. And then June 30th, I left, and I was sworn in the NYPD July 7th of 2004.
What was the biggest? So, I mean, for guys that never worked in correction, my brother worked in corrections, like same as you, I think 3 or 4 years. What like you had to go through the whole thing all over again. What people don't realize is you got to take the NYPD test. You got to go through a background check. You got to go through physicals. Then you got to go through the police academy. I mean, it's not just like, hey, come on over. It's a big thing to roll over. You come on the job now and you go to a precinct. What were the biggest differences that you noticed immediately between working in corrections and the NYPD?
Well, I went on the job at the age of 30. Like I said, I had a good job, but then it wasn't working out. So I went on at 30. By the time I got to the PD, I was 33. So I went through the academy with a bunch of 20-year-olds, and here I am, 33 years old. I did the run. I did everything I was supposed to do. I really wanted that job. If I tell you my hands was shaking the day they gave me my shield, I'm not lying. I was like, I can't believe I finally got this. This is what I've always wanted. And then upon graduation, they sent me to the 7.5. Now, the 7.5, as you know, is a very busy command. It's not the 7.5. I'm not the 20-year-old that thinks it's the Route 1987 7.5. I know that it had slowed down a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm like looking at this, and 125 rookies went there. Now, this precinct was built for 250 cops. That's what it was built in 1973 for. When I got there was 639 cops in the 7.5. We had 13 sector cars, 3 crime teams, 3 SNU teams, a condition team, and a tracer unit, as well as 3 captain XOs and a 1-star chief as the CO, Chief Marino. But it was so culture shock because every day I had to walk the post, and we're talking like from the Sutter Avenue all the way to Livonia and Penn, or to Liberty Avenue. And on the way, you would get a summons, you'd get a guy smoking weed, you would get your activity on the way to post. So I reveled in it. I remember in the academy, the day we got our assignments, and the same day, this is not lying, the New York Post put the killing fields. And that's the day they split it up into 3 zones. And they had 3 XOs. Everybody, there was 4 people in my company that went to the 7.5. I was 3rd in line. First cop, 109. Then there was a girl, she went to the 4.0. Then another girl, 109. And then Caputo, 7.5. And the whole room to my face. Like, okay, 7.5 it is. And then let me tell you something. I do the reunions every 2 years. It has to be the finest command. I've been to 3. The finest command I've ever been to. The camaraderie, it's like being in a fraternity. Everywhere I went, I annoyed my partner in the 105 squad because we went to 1PP, and she counted. I ran into 22 people I knew from the rank of cop to 1-star chief that had been through the 7.5. She goes, "Is there anybody you don't know?" I says, "You don't understand that command. It's just, you go through." Tight. It was very tight house.
Yeah, it's like the 4.6 and the 4.4 in the Bronx. Same thing.
That's what I hear. And I reveled in it, and I loved it. But it was from corrections to PD. It was actually like, I don't want to shit on corrections as much. It basically was a glorified babysitter.
Yeah.
You filled out 2 pieces of paper a day. You had a phone and a book. And then you just sat there and counted guys every day. You counted them. How many you got? I got 63 inmates. And then you do the count 5 times a day, and then you take them to meal, then in the yard, and then you go home. But the worst part of corrections was when I'm going home after a long day, and you're passing through that building, and she goes, "Caputo, 6 upper." I'm like, "I just came from 5 lower." She goes, "Yeah, they called in sick. You got to do another 8.5 hours." I'm like, "Are you serious?" Yeah, and it was forced, so I couldn't do it.
You're not getting off that island.
No, not getting off. And when you got off, you were like tired. You were done, mentally done, because you're constantly like this. You know what I mean? Everybody coming at you. Can I get a razor? Can I go to the shower? Can I go to the meal? Can I go to the yard? Can I go to school? No.
Yeah, listen, I had the cells a bunch of times as a rookie cops, like when Bronx Central booking would overflow, and the whole night, CO, paper toilet, CO, when are we going to eat? CO. And that's just a couple of hours when they would triple up the cells, like in the 4.2 or something, which that was bad enough. So I can't imagine being on Rikers Island.
I tell you, it was my first month in the 7.5. I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm out here by myself. I'm walking around. I'm
Fresh
walking
air.
all day. Fresh air. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you go up to the train station, you get a little, because I graduated in the winter. You go outside, you go upstairs, get warm, go back out, and you just walk around, get scratched.
When I first came on the job, right, like the 7.5 was right up there with the 3.4, leading the city in homicides and gun arrests. And like you said, it wasn't the same, but it still was a busy house.
Right. Busy house.
Was there anyone around that still was talking about Michael Dowd? Like, was there still the ghost of him that would...
The Midnights. So the Midnights, as you probably know, is flurried with veterans.
Yeah.
And they did not talk to you.
Yeah.
I definitely went through there was one officer, female, get the fuck out of my way. Don't talk to me. Just get away from me, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
First time in a radio car, don't touch the fucking radio. Just sit there and shut up. Things like that. But you know what? You respected that because you heard it from other people, and now I'm in it. Also, there were guys there that were they were the delegates, obviously, and they had a lot of time on the job, and you were a sponge to their crap. They were still on patrol, but they were still on patrol, so you had to respect them. You know what I mean? And then a couple of them actually went to the PBA, like Tommy Gilmore, great guy. He was there. He was partners with like Pete Fagosky and a couple of those guys. Then there was another guy, John J. Ingrasso. He was on the PBA. He actually went against Pat Lynch running for the president one year. There was a you want to know how all this nonsense started? So I'm in the 7.5, and the guy behind me is an anti-crime cop. He's very well known in the command. Even the perps know him. They call him Spider. Okay, I can even drop his name because he's such a great guy. Chris Castrogiovanni. It comes down the stairs one day, and I'm getting dressed, and he sees I'm a little older, and he's wearing a beat up leather jacket. And it's an old patrol jacket that belonged to his dad. So says, where did you had the brass buttons? Right?
Yeah.
But where did you get that? He goes, this was my dad's. I go, you went out in the street? He goes, yeah. He's like, that's fucking... And my orientation in the 7.5, we're all brand new shirts with our paddle holsters and stuff. And it's like, there's 85 of us, and then there's another bunch that are coming in. And they're trying to squeeze us in the mustard room. He comes in with 3 cops and a gun collar, puts the gun on the desk, and we're like, oh, shit. He goes back out. No joke. 3 hours later, we're still doing orientation. He had another gun collar. And he was that guy. Like, his team was amazing, a crime team. And you just watched. You didn't ask questions because you know you were going to tell you shut the fuck up. But you watched what they did. And when I was driving the van, I'm doing FTU. I'm driving the boss one day, and we were rolled up on one of their jobs. We had to put prisoners. And I'm just seeing how he's talking to people and how his partners are talking to people, how they dressed, not wearing the football jersey with the camouflage shorts, but just screaming cop. They actually legit did the crime thing, And I always say, people always tell me, 7.5, fish in a barrel. I go, yeah, it might be that way. But at the end of the day, I still got to put my hands on that fish. I got to process that fish. And you don't know where that fish has been. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about. I love being active. Ask my wife. I was collaring. I remember my first phone call to my mom and dad and my wife, my girlfriend at the time. I made my first arrest. I filled out my first complaint report. It was a big deal to me. So, and to this day, I love those memories. You know what I mean? And even now I'm retired, I still run into 7.5 guys all the time. It's amazing.
Well, was there that funk from Dowd?
There was. Well, you know what? There's still stuff in the locker room because I was still in the old locker room, and the old lockers were there with the bullshit all over it, with re-elect this asshole for board trustee, and then there was some Dowd stuff. No joke. And then you know what I found? I found the record room. I'm that guy. I'll sit there and read. I found roll calls. Sign in Dowd, Urel, the other guy, the tall Polish guy. I forgot his name. Walter. Yeah. So I saw them signing out, or they called in sick, and then I was going through fucking desk logs. I reveled in that shit and then when the movie came out, all the guys where I was working, which was I think it was a 105 squad, was breaking my balls. Like, God, it's funny you say that about Michael Dowd because I was when he got out of jail, I was at the Mount Carmel feast working the detail with a bunch of 7.5 cops, and one of my buddies who had 8 years on the job, he had invited the 7.5 cops to the church to have something to eat. And I'll never forget my sergeant. You go nowhere near that fucking church or I will write you up myself. And he was inviting us to just to talk to us and stuff. And we went nowhere near it. And he was there and he had just got out of jail. And I forgot what year that was. It was in the early 2000s. Seven or eight, he got out.
Didn't Dan Bongino work in the 7.5 too, right?
Yeah, I never knew him either. And he was
West
only there for
Parade?
he was there for a cup of coffee. As you say, like in baseball, he was there for a cup of coffee, but he was there. Some people I know that knew him. Like I said, there's a contingent of old school 7-5 people that still get together. There is a guy, I don't know if you know, his name is Benny Casales. They call him Big Benny. He goes there on the weekends to this day and has barbecues. He raises money through a Venmo and he barbecues for the patrol cops today. He is so 7-5 through and through, and his heart is genuine. He just did a barbecue for Mike Russell. Mike Russell was killed the same day Thurman Munson died in August 2nd, 1979. And obviously Thurman Munson's death overshadowed.
Right, sure.
He was off duty at the time playing with the neighborhood kids in a softball game, and he got shot chasing a perp. And
Jesus.
he just had a barbecue for his anniversary on August 2nd, and the family was there. I can go into a lot of things. I treated the 7-5 as my second home. I was the guy that helped build the gym, maintain the gym. I built a memorial in the 7-5. I sold shirts, and all the profits went to build a memorial. I got the shields, the names, the pictures, all on the wall when you walk in the muster room now. Unfortunately, I had to add two of my friends to that wall, being Dave Mahmood, who died of 9/11 cancer, and Pete Fagosky, who unfortunately was shot in the face. Yeah. And I'm still in touch with his daughters. They just had his birthday was the other day. They had a ceremony at the cemetery. I couldn't make that, but I do definitely do the anniversary in December. I take this to the cemetery. His name is on the window, as you can see behind me. So it means a lot to the family and me.
With the 7-5, the West Indian Day Parade cuts through the 7-5, right?
No, it actually cuts through the 8-1 and the 8-3 on Eastern Parkway. It's 7-3.
Oh, so see, I'm not a Brooklyn guy. I'm a Bronx guy. If you told me the Grand Concourse, I could tell you what precincts. But did you have to work the West Indian Day Parade?
Never missed one.
Just
I volunteered.
Could you just explain what that's like for a cop to work the West Indian Day Parade?
So the West Indian Day Parade is not just a parade. It's a 2-day fiasco. The night before, they have what is called Juve. And now Juve is when they dance in the streets, they cover themselves in oil. They cover the police cars in oil. It got to the point where it got so big that task force came in with this new netting that would make the parade move because they would just stand and dance in the same spot for hours. It is one of the biggest details in the city, I believe. The amount of cops on 3 to 4 tours that meet at the park, right off Eastern Parkway, right near in the 7-1 where Ebbets Field was. So that goes on the night before. And then when dawn breaks, here come more cars, more vans, and now this is for the parade. And the parade consists of tractor trailers, flatbeds, with the biggest speakers you ever saw in your life, blasting music, and people dancing. And then at the end, the streets are filled with corn on the cob, aluminum foil, and garbage. It is also the most violent parade in the city. It's guaranteed to have, unfortunately, a fatality, 1 or 2, or a stabbing that night. If I didn't get assigned to it, I volunteered for it because in a cop's way, you made a lot of money. It was a 21 to 23 hour day, and you prepared for it. You brought a cooler full of food. You put it in the back of the car because you didn't really want to go to the local spots in uniform. They weren't taking kindly to us at the time. But my thing was, even as a detective, I reveled putting on the uniform. Every time I did a detail, it's my running joke. I took a selfie with the person I was with. I have hundreds of pictures.
I should have done that.
I just did a montage of my every ball drop. I did 18 straight ball drops. Like I said, if I wasn't assigned, I went. I did 1 tree lighting. I'll never do that again. You're going to think that was like the president was coming. Like the tree lighting, getting yelled at by bosses that like, really, dude? We're lighting a Christmas tree here. This isn't like we're saving a life. But like I said, I did every parade, Dominican, Colombia. I marched in a lot myself too. Yeah, but the West Indian Day Parade was a very interesting thing. You can't really understand it until you actually do it. Yeah. And to know a cop that would take his vacation on Labor Day because he didn't want to do that parade, like, seriously? I never agreed with that, but I did it. I loved it. I loved that parade.
I hated it.
I know. It was a long day, but you know what? When I got my check, I was like, are you serious?
It's almost like when you were a kid and you went to like Jones Beach and you stood out in the water all day playing and the waves keep hitting you and then you go home and you lay down and you still feel it. Oh, yeah. I would hear that music, the vibration from my chest with the boom, 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 and then the air horn.
All the time. All the time.
I would hear that for days.
I had one year I had it right at the Brooklyn Museum, right where Grand Army Plaza is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm in they had that thing where they the grandstand. They would stop there, and boom, but I couldn't even hear myself think.
Move the wax right out of your ears.
It was crazy. It was crazy, and and it's always the hottest day of the year.
Yep.
It never rains.
Or had a cold snap. It was always fucking hot. Yep.
Always. And you're wearing the vest, the dark uniform, and you got to wear your hat because the bosses roll, or the helmet, because you never know.
Yeah.
That's the one
thing.
They
do throw bottles and shit.
When you were in the busy commands in the Bronx, you know for a fact that when we went to a detail, especially New Year's Eve, you weren't leaving until 3 a.m.
Right.
The garbage men came and cleaned up, but Brooklyn North, Bronx, and stand by. Queens go home. Staten Island go back.
Go home. Yeah.
And you're like, are you serious, bro? Oh, God.
Hey, they weren't too kindly to the Bronx or Brooklyn North for that matter.
Never.
And they'd always put you in the back. They'd always put the Bronx and Brooklyn North in the back.
I remember Chief Smoker. I'm standing there, and where's my Brooklyn North guys? And I'm like, flipping my collar press over. Like, what is this guy going to have us do? And sure enough, we had to clear the park right after the ball drop, and there was a rowdy bunch not too far away, and the 8-1 had to go over there and clear it. So we did. You know, I only had one. Did you ever have a keep them coming on you when you were on job?
Keep them coming where?
A keep them coming. If a chief or a supervisor would say keep them coming.
I've been on 13s. I've been on 13s where keep them coming.
I had one, as a rookie in the 7-3 by the pool. They had a problem there, big melee. Chief Marino got on the air, and I was driving the sergeant. He's like, Central, keep them coming. And she goes, 10-5, you heard me. Keep them coming, everybody. Dude, there had to be 40 vans there grabbing people up. And it was just a melee. And
it's usually the bosses that say enough. It's usually the duty captain, or like you said, a chief will come on the radio and say enough, because they know what's going to happen.
He did not. He wanted more and more cops coming to that place to show force. And we gathered up a lot of collars that day. And that never happened again in my whole career. I never heard of keep them coming on the radio. Yeah, you always say, call it off, that kind of crap. But no, he had to keep them coming. And that was pretty cool. That was really cool when you're brand new on the job.
Well,
like, this is going to be every day.
A movie.
Exactly. It's like, this is going to be my career.
Yeah, people don't understand that. Like at a 13 or something, or God forbid, when a cop gets shot. I mean, it's just a sea of blue.
Yeah. Even in 85, 85s and the 7-5 were pretty good because you had PSA 2 that would show up. 7-3 would come out of zone, obviously, come flying over, and we even have 106 guys come over the border because cops in the 7-5. I'm not shitting on other commands really, but You didn't call those things. Even when I got a collar, I forget this. I got my collar as a sector car. Oh my God. I went over the air and says, yeah, show me what went under. Right away, 5 George gets on the air and says, go to 6. I'm like, uh-oh. I go to 6. He goes, meet us at the corner of so-and-so. I got a prison. I don't give a fuck what you got. We get to the corner. 2 guys, one 5'10", the other one 6'2". Who the fuck told you could collar? Like, I needed one for the month. He's like, dude, now I got to cover my sector and your sector. You get back to that house, you process that collar, and you get the fuck back out. I was like, lesson learned. I didn't know I had to ask permission. It was funny.
Well, some guys get territorial. So like me, you were a detective in the NYPD's auto crime division. What made you put in for the auto crime division?
Well, I've been into cars my entire life. I used to cruise Franny Little. My first car was an IROC Z. Then I had a Mustang. Then I was a mechanic, but I was also a mechanic, like I said, at American Airlines. I didn't work on cars. I worked on all the equipment that started up the aircraft and made the air conditioning. So I was always working with my hands. And, my grandfather got me started with that. He sold cars in the Bronx for 50 years over in Hunts Point. So he was this was his favorite, the Chevy Caprice. So being a car guy, everybody's like, you know what, you should put in for auto crime. But I had never done auto larceny because getting to certain places, being a 7-5 cop, wasn't the easiest thing. Putting in for places, you always got denied because if you were doing a good job, the bosses would want to hang on to you because you're making them look good. And I get it. I did. But advancing your career, you shouldn't be declining me my career. So I put in for auto crime, and my interview went very well. My background was good. I interviewed with 2 lieutenants and a sergeant, and within 4 months after that, I was assigned there in 2010. I got the call up. I went to OCCB training, which was amazing.
What team were you assigned to?
I was assigned to the Brooklyn North team. My boss was with Chris Willis, and I had he was my sergeant first.
I know Chris very well.
And then he got promoted to lieutenant. Spent 9 days in the 7-5, and then Chief Izzo brought him back. And then I had Sammy Malisi for a little bit, and then I had Mike White, who was a narcotics sergeant, great guy. And I worked with a couple of guys over there a while. Keith Mushon, you said John John Salmeri, Danny Grant was my partner for a while. Eddie Hayes, who came over from narcotics in Manhattan North. Good guys. Guido Trevino too. Unfortunately, I only spent 3 years in auto crime because of my love for the job. I worked on Guido Trevino had 3 major cases that we worked on, and some of Keith Muth and John Samari had a big major case, big takedowns. I was in the news and press conferences at 1PP with Ray Kelly. Very good experience, and unfortunately, it was cut short. But I loved it there.
When you worked in the auto crime division, what surprised you most coming from patrol?
The laid backness. You could be in crime, you could do street narcotics, and you could drive around in an unmarked car, yeah, but you have boundaries in a precinct. In auto crime, I didn't have any boundaries. Wherever the job took you, reading 61s every day, or doing surveillance, or whatever team needed somebody to go to the Bronx, Manhattan. I mean, I even drove to Virginia one night with Chris Willis. We had GPS the car, and we went to where the damn thing took us, and we were out there for hours. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, things like that, you're not doing that on a command. No. And you had to call Chalk, you had to call him to get permission to go out of the city, and all this stuff. It's stuff you learn that you'll never be a part of, or you thought you'd be a part of. And you see on the TV, and you're like, wow, now I'm doing it. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good guys there, let me tell you.
So, like every auto crime detective, a car guy that goes to auto crime, they could pick out cars in a parking lot. You run the plate, you look at the year, the model. Everybody's got their go-to cars. Like early on, I started IDing General Motors products. Then I moved on to Dodge, BMW, Mercedes. Then I went into box trucks. Early on, what was your go-to cars to ID?
Well, like I said, I had an IROC, an NEF body, Trans Am, those cars, even the Monte Carlo SSs. All those cars were from my youth. So I knew how to, the steering column crack, how to steal those, pull the window crap. Then I got into the confidential VINs. I had a Dodge Charger that I was driving to work every day. And I knew what that was. So I started doing some stuff with the guys in auto crime. If they didn't know where it was, I would teach them that. Nissan Altimas, because those were big, high theft cars too. We were dealing with a lot of Dominicans that were stealing Toyota Highlanders and Lexus RX 380s. So I was doing a lot of, it's another thing too, doing the surveillance, giving me equipment that and absorbing, like guys I work with, like O'Rourke. World of Information. Seamus, World of Information.
Great guy.
I partnered up with him the day I got there. He was an old 7.5 midnight guy. Very laid back, but amazing.
Sharp as a tack.
Sharp as a tack. I mean, like you said, the construction equipment, he was the expert at.
Yeah, heavy equipment.
And he does heavy equipment now. He operates them, retired. But when he used to take me to the pier over in Red Hook, and we would open up containers after he would get them to X-ray, that kind of stuff, and IDing cars, really good stuff, man. Really. I mean, I was in my glory because I was playing with cars every day.
So like in my time, right, like when they would tag a car, change the vehicle identification number, guys would go to salvage auctions. They would buy wrecks, pennies on the dollar. They would take those wrecks. They create a VIN kit. They take what VIN numbers and stickers were salvageable, right? Then in addition to that, they would also go to like the city marshal auctions where piece of shit cars get towed for summonses. No one wants it, but believe it or not, they're buying those cars, taking the VIN numbers off it, send it to a scrap metal process, and now they got a VIN kit. When I was leaving, about a year or two before I retired, they started cloning. Now, cloning is you have a cousin in San Diego, you have him take a photo of a VIN number in a car in San Diego, and then you got a paper guy somewhere that creates a VIN kit of stickers and a VIN number. And then what you do is you create a phony title, and then you start bouncing that title through different states to wash it. Was that still going on with the cloning? Were they still doing salvage?
Yeah, no, they were still doing that. Actually, when I got there, they were talking about Cadillac Escalades. And they even told us there are 10 Escalades out there in 10 different states with the same VIN number. Plus, DMVs don't talk to each other.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, you brought that up because Guido had a case with the Dominicans in East New York, and they were stealing cars and tagging them, like you said. And me and Seamus had videotaped the guy. He cleaned his entire car out. And with the moment he took the car seat out and threw it in the garbage, then it kind of hit me. I'm not just, we're actually ruining somebody's life here.
Yeah.
But anyway, they would re-VIN the entire car. But when we did the takedown, this is where my first takedown was amazing because we had guys in Pennsylvania. We had guys in East New York at the locksmith. We were confiscating his machines, his van from cutting keys. We had 4 detectives in Brooklyn at the Toyota dealership that were giving the key codes. And
then there's always an inside guy, right?
And whatever, I forgot what it was, but they said go time. So nobody could talk to each other because we were up on the phones. They arrested the girl at DMV for washing titles in Pennsylvania. we went and hit the locksmith on Sutter Avenue. And then the other guys took down the guy's house in Queens. And we all brought them in at the same time and separated them all. And it was unreal. Then we had 7 cars on display at 1PP because we had confiscated after they did the shit, the VIN, and re-tagged it and all that. Whoever bought the car, because we were up on the wire, we took the car from them and kept it. And then had it on display that but we had the owners in on it too. You let the owner
they know they're getting a deal.
Right. So we go, so they're going to steal your car. And unfortunately, you had to let them do it because it was part of a bigger picture. At the end of the day, I didn't know that.
Right.
But I'm learning as I'm going along. I'm like, let this guy fucking steal a car. We got the info. Let's go get him. No.
You gotta wait.
When he gets a certain amount, we're going federally with this to the Southern District. I'm like, okay.
Were they taking the windshields out to change the VINs, or were they lazy? Because I've seen it too, and they get fucking lazy and they don't take the windshield out, and then it's really obvious.
One auto crime guy pissed me off. They are removing the windshields. They were removing the windshields, but one auto crime guy. I'm in the 7.5. I'm coming back from patrol, and they had brought in a yellow Mustang, and it was tagged. This guy just opens up his bag, he takes out a hammer, and he starts hammering the windshield and takes the VIN plate off. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, it's a tag job. I go, there's an easier way to do that. He goes, yeah, I don't give a. Then he's like, I don't give a fuck. And then I remember running into him when I got to auto crime. Remember that day you were in the 7.5 ripping that fucking windshield out? Pretty fucking stupid.
You want to laugh? When I was a rookie cop, I did that a couple of times. Took it out the window. By the time I retired, I had tools that I made that I could just pop for different cars and just pop that thing off without leaving.
Seamus had the same bag. Seamus had your bag because he had the same thing. He would go in there and pull out something weird. Like, what the fuck is that?
And just
goes,
pop,
watch.
And some I probably still have them somewhere, and for different ones for different cars.
Right. Yes, that's right. He did have that different car.
So you bring it back. I hope if you talk to him, tell him I said hi. So before I retired, about 3 months before I retired, the license plate readers came out. And the New York State Police had it, and then the Westchester County DA's office had it. When I was in auto crime, we actually never had a vehicle that had that. But actually we did. It was like a kit. It wasn't permanent. Right. Did the auto crime, were they using that type of technology?
Yes. But when I got there, we had the ones like you said. You could take them off the trunk and put them in.
Right.
And then they had that 4 antenna thing on the roof that would fold, and you could take it off and disconnect the wire. What we did was we actually used a lot of rentals down the road. We started getting Dodge Caravans, and we would actually take him. There was a guy you probably knew. His name was Tony, and he went to Teru. I don't know his last name.
I'd probably know my face.
He was a very good upfitter. So what we would do is we would request certain things. So what they created for us was a thuly for the roof. And in the front corners, he would make 2 cutouts for the cameras, and he would angle them down to as we're driving on the Belt Parkway, he would be scanning, and then cars would pop up on our computer. But like for certain things, if it was a stolen car, we'd stop it. We would then call local, because we weren't doing that shit. We weren't even doing paper plates really until it was a thing. Do you understand?
Right.
Because it started becoming a thing, and you could tell what was legit and what wasn't. But we did have the plate readers, and only certain guys took that out. I would dress up as a sanitation worker, and I'd have that thing going, or I'd dress up as I still got my uniforms. Post office. It was only one time I got stopped by some idiot. I'm wearing a sanitation, and I'm reading the paper. He goes, "Oh, what depot you work in?" I go, "I don't fucking know." And I was driving that day. I was not in the minivan. I was driving some Hyundai Elantra, would you believe? And I'm just sitting there watching this guy, and I'm watching his house, seeing what he's coming and going. Good. Like I said, it was a really. I wish I could have went further with it, but after 3 years, I had to move on. Unfortunately,
with technology, it's getting more difficult to steal cars. Can you go into a few ways like the high-tech car thieves are stealing cars these days? Because in the old day, it was just starting to get high-tech as I was leaving.
Well, the OBD2 reader, that thing, going in through the computer and getting the access to the VIN number, the key code, and stuff like that. Gives you access to the car. Plus, they were doing things in more of an electronic way rather than like back in the day where you stick a screwdriver and you just crank the fucking thing in 13 seconds. We got a little. I mean, the car companies were getting a little smarter with the push button starts. You would need the remote and all that. But then if you had somebody at the dealership, they would give you the remote. Once you ran the VIN, they could find you the code, and then it would give you the remote. They'd be walking down a block, and they go to doors, and then before you know it, the push button starts, and they would take off, and then they would rekey them again through the computer. We arrested the guy that was turning back odometers, the digital ones, on Mercedes-Benz and Range Rovers. He was
Oh, they
sitting
figured out how to do that?
on a laptop. They would nowhere to meet him. And we got the insight on this one. He was at a car wash in Queens along the Horace Hunting Expressway. He's sitting in his car, and guys were coming up and they were paying like $300 to $500 to turn back the odometer because they were leases. Oh, we got him on a federal charge. Not me, but I remember that was a huge thing back in the day.
Would he take the odometers and leave, or he'd do it right there?
They would meet him there. There'd be like 3 or 4 cars waiting to go for him, and they would pay him in cash.
You
and
take
we're
you go, and you meet someone. No.
We're videotaping them doing it, and then we get the corroborating from the person that did it because they were in. They wanted to, they didn't want to pay the money, but they were in on it, and we wouldn't charge them because we knew they were going. We were up on the phone, and we're like, yeah, I'm going to the car wash right now, and they go, we go there, and we get him like, listen, dude, you got 2 choices. You either work with us or you get fucked. And he would work with us.
Yeah, see, things are high tech. See, like in the old days with the odometers, with the body shops, and they would take the odometer out, and a guy would come around, and he'd take them. But he would take them, and you'd pay him whatever the rate was, $200, $300, $500. I'm going back many years, and the guy would come back.
Or was it the roller?
The roller.
Was it digital? Oh, it was roller.
No. That's why when you said digital, I was shocked because I figured there was a way to do it, but we hadn't caught anybody while I was there doing it. No, so I found that fascinating. I know the answer to this question because I know you a little bit. Do you miss getting up at 4 a.m. to do those major case and search warrants across the 5 boroughs?
I actually do. You know what it is? It's not that I miss that. I miss the job sometimes. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the guys. I actually miss putting on the heavy vest and getting, because you were doing something. It was fun. Yeah. When I went to work, you can ask my wife, I would go to work early every day because I didn't feel like I was going to work. I was going to hang out with my friends and occasionally make an arrest. You're driving around, you're getting dinner, you're shooting the shit with your friends. Afterwards, you'll go out drinking. But like some of that stuff, the 4 a.m, I probably really don't really miss. Because like I said, I did a lot of searches and corrections at 5 a.m. So I was up at 3:30 to go to work because I told you the process of going over the bridge and everything.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
I did 5 to 1s for a while doing escorts in jail, escorting idiots to the buses to go on to court. But there's a lot of things that I do miss. Like I don't miss the job now because of what it is. I went to the 105 recently. There's cameras there all around the building. There's cameras walking into the squad. I just found out. You're gonna love this one. So there was a cop where I work now in Manhattan. There's 2 cops that work there too from the 10th precinct. So he's in a black unmarked Impala, and I'm talking to him, and I'm noticing something on the rearview mirror. I'm like, what the hell is that? He goes, you gotta love this, Jack. He's like, you turn the lights on, it activates the camera forward. You go to level 2, it starts recording. You go to the full bird, camera on the inside, camera on the outside, and it records what you're saying as you're going to an emergency. Camera in the car, not only the one on your chest, now there's one hooked up to the rearview mirror that goes inside the car and outside the car. Like, how much oversight do you really need? Like I said, that's one of the reasons why I left the job. The job of being treated as an adult. I remember my bosses back in the 7-5, go out there and they trusted you when you made an arrest. It's like, not like, oh, what do you got? Like my cops are good. They know the law. They're bringing in a collar. It's not going to be shit canned. It's not going to get, thrown out.
Right.
They know what they got. Now it's like scrutiny, constant scrutiny. Where are you going? Where were you? Check the GPS on his car. Does it match what's written in the book? Like, really, dude? Like, really? And then they were threatening to give us cameras in the squad. And I had gone to I went to the new academy for training for the cameras. And I'll never forget this. It was 200 of us, detectives from all over the city. And the sergeant's talking. He's showing us video cameras, some test things. And there was 2 cops in uniform stopping a kid for smoking weed in the park in Harlem. And they had to write him a summons. So one guy, big black guy, stands up, the detective, and goes, yes, what happened to discretion? And he goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, I stopped those 2 guys. I'm in uniform. And it's a high area of shootings and homicides around here, right? So you want me to write this guy a summons for carrying a bag of weed or smoking a spliff in the park rather than take that, throw it out, or write him a summons, not even write him a summons. You want me to arrest the guy. I can get his name and his information, put it on my fly sheet, and have that for future information I need. I'm going to wreck this guy's life for a bag of weed that he admitted to me he's got it on me, but you want me to take him off the street, go off patrol. Now somebody else is going to cover my part. It was like a whole thing. And like, dude, where do we come in? Like we're cops and we know bullshit when we see it in a busy command.
Right.
That if I bring that in, my lieutenant's going to go nuts.
Yeah, well,
And
that was the old days. Yeah.
and that would be the end of confidential informants. Who's going to turn on anybody anymore? Who's going to give you information like Brian Moore? We didn't touch on my 105 squad days, but since this came up right now, when I went to the trial, there was a kid in the neighborhood that lived next to Demetrius, the one that shot Brian in his face. And this guy was a gangbanger. And he had been stopped by Brian many times, and Brian had let him go for a little minor shit because he was his go-to guy, like one of his CIs. And he testified at Brian's trial saying that he should have never have died. He was a good kid, a good cop. And that hit me because here is a perp, like legit rap sheet and everything else. And he's testifying against a bigger piece of shit who took the life of a cop. And that was amazing. I mean, we had to send Queen's DA's office to pick this kid up and put a bag over his head so he wouldn't be identified getting in the car and all that. But what a testimony to see this guy testify against him in court on behalf of a cop. Only, just like those relationships, you're not going to, like, you don't want to be, you know what I mean?
Well, the people running the police department don't see the big picture because they were never cops. They were test takers.
Dude, we can go into that for many. I'm the preacher in the office too. I couldn't.
I know.
What did you used to do? What did you run the guy's bed? See what are we getting here as a boss? Like what do we got? We got 10 collars and good Saturdays. I get it. Some good believe me, we had great bosses, but there was some out there like I wouldn't follow that guy into McDonald's.
So all right, so let's get into your 105 precinct days. What was it like? So you go from auto crime to the squad.
Okay.
How is that different? I know the answer, but for people out there.
Okay. So for me, I was already a Gold Shield. And you know how the squad works. You do patrol, snoo, crime, you get a shot at the squad from inside the command.
Right.
And me knowing this because I didn't just get off the bus yesterday. I know how it works. I'm coming from auto crime, I'm already a Gold Shield. So now I'm going to be pushing people off their vacation picks because I'm on the job a while. You got white shields that are there for going for the 18 months to get their shield. Now I'm pushing them down. I walk in and I'm in a suit, shell shock off the bat. Here's all these guys, and they were guys there that had over 20 years on the job, and they're doing the job. It was still old school with them. The way they dressed with the ties, the shirts. One guy looked like Sipowicz too with the short sleeve and the tie. Acted like it too. So I get there. Now the 105 squad had 25 detectives, 2 sergeants, and a lieutenant. And the lieutenant there was an old school 2-8 cop, and he was a 102 sergeant, and then he was a 103, 105 squad guy, and then he had the money. Let me tell you. So I had gotten jammed up, and the reason why I went to the squad, and I had lost some vacation days. So, but fortunately, there was one sergeant there that was my sergeant in the 7.5, and I had drove him his first day, and he asked me to take me around the neighborhood, so I did, and we hit it off. So I called him and says, I'm coming, and apparently they had a little meeting about me before I got there. So all I hear is, Caputo, get in here. So I walk into the lieutenant's office, and I'm fucking sweating my ass off, and he's like, listen, welcome. He goes, we heard they took 30 days from you. I guess you're not going to Disneyland this year. Now I'm like, I thought he was going to say, oh, you got railroaded. We're going to help you out, get some time back. He goes, guess you're not going to Disney World. You're going to be working with Goodspeed and Paw Pen. Now get the fuck out of my office. That was how it went. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it.
So then I went to sit down with the guys. I started meeting everybody, and I'm already getting like hit here, and the guy's looking at me weird, like, who's this fucking guy? But you know how the job is, how when you go from one place to another, phone calls are made to let you know.
Right, of course.
They're like, this guy Caputo, who the fuck is he? Real crime, like I told you, they got 7 phone calls, and they said they were all good, and I'm like, thank God. And then going to the 105 squad, we got 9 phone calls on you, and you appear to be a great guy. Only time will tell. And I says, well, I'm just here to fit in, bro. And
right.
And whatever you guys need, I'm here for it. And then eventually, Klein, my boss, came around. I started cleaning up the office. And he started giving me time. So I was able to make 2 weeks back. And it turned out so much that when he retired, he gave me his firearm as a gift because he knew how much I loved the job. And I took care of that office and stuff like that. I tried to fit in the best I could. And I had the greatest partners, let me tell you.
Did you catch any homicides?
I did not. I was not that guy. See, you know your role in certain places. I'm not going to lie. Squad life was never in my purview. I can still tell you, if you called my partner, my radio partner from the 7.5, we had the discussion in the car, what do you want to do in this job? And I told him flat out, the one thing I don't want to be is a squad guy. Because those guys in the 7.5 squad were miserable. Because they were always busy. They had shootings and homicides out the ass. So when I got here, there was one guy, there were 4 guys that were lights out with homicides, and they all went on to become graded detectives. I mean, even Kevin Goodspeed, who went to homicide, he caught Brian Moore's killer. Then it was my partner Paul Penn, excellent excellent homicide guy. But the one person who's still there now, he's got 25 years, just made first grade, took 25 years. He has so many homicides to his credit. But I always say to people, if there was everybody, God forbid anybody in your family died, you want him on the case. He is relentless. Relentless to the point that even if the perp is a perp and the victim was a perp, he's finding that killer. He will get to the bottom of that case no matter what. And I respect him for that because I learned a lot from him. I just wasn't that guy. I actually assumed the role. I had a team. I was part of a team. I caught a shooting. I caught a stabbing. I was so glad that nobody died when I was on the team because I was not that guy. I really wasn't. I'm sorry.
No.
Not that I could take it well, but I took the DV spot, would you believe, in the squad, and I wound up feeding the squad. I was that guy who would, like, if you need a collar, I'll help you out. I'll even do all the paperwork for you, and I'll even talk to the DA. Just make the money. I reveled in that, but I would assist on homicides. I would assist on shootings. I wasn't always great at it. Not gonna lie to you. I'm just not that.
Well, it takes time. The squad, they ruined the squad. The squad was when I came on the job, the squad was probably the best place on the job to work, to be a precinct detective. And then ComStat came along, and that ruined it, with everybody looking over your shoulder. And now you can't even do a 5 in a typewriter. Now, right, everything is you do a 5, it's in a computer, and they can look at it downtown. And then you got guys that want to play cop that aren't cops, asking stupid, ridiculous questions, but you can't tell them to fuck off because they outrank you. They ruined it. They ruined the squad. And yeah, I would have been like you after 10 years in OCCB. I was ruined. There'd be
Vic,
no way.
But Vic, you know what? I think what ruined me, and my partner will tell you this, because I as much as I was a part of the team, like I said, I painted the office, I cleaned it up, I made him a museum. I ran the club. Excuse me. I got us beds. I got us 9 beds so we could sleep in at night when we did the turnarounds.
Yeah.
I was very disgruntled in the back of my mind what the job had done to me when I got jammed up for loving the job. Somebody had made an allegation against me and they ran with it, unfortunately. I lost my gig at Auto Crime. And then the places that I wanted to go or tried to get to, I couldn't. So they put me in a squad. Like I said, it was a great place to work, but I was always in the back of my mind, like, I was put here. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when somebody makes you retire. You don't retire on your own terms.
Right.
Right?
No, I get it.
It's kind of like when I retired. I mean, I loved it. I'm happy I'm out of the job. The job is not the same. But at the end of the day, what the city did to the job and what the bosses did to the job made me leave because I couldn't do what I was doing. I wasn't treated. Here I am, I'm 52 years old, and I'm being treated by a child, by a 30-year-old guy who took a couple of tests. He's telling me what to do. I know what to do. I've been doing it a while. But again, I respect rank. Believe me, I do. You'll never find a guy who doesn't respect rank more than me. Sometimes the man is difficult to respect. You know what I mean? How you got there.
Well, that's ultimately why I retired. I was the old guy in the office, and I said in one of my books, I saw the writing on the wall, and it was in crayon. And shame on me.
I've said that too.
Shame on me if I'm going to hang around here and be miserable. You know what I mean? And everybody outlives their usefulness. You do. And guys, you love the job, but it's never going to love you back. Not the way you love it. And if you hang around too long, unfortunately, something bad's going to happen, or it's going to kick you in the ass. It's get what you can out of it, enjoy those memories, and move on. But like, I was looking online. I mean, I'm fascinated by this. You've restored a bunch of blue and white NYPD police vehicles, and you do an excellent job, and it brings back a lot of fond memories when I see those cars. How many blue and white RMPs have you restored?
Right now, I'm on my 4th. We just got a car that's coming out of paint. It's an 86 Grand Fury. We're getting that soon from the body shop. I did mine. This car was completely done by me except for the paint. I can't do paint, but I do everything else. The interior, the suspension, all the stuff that's in here, you see. This is as accurate as an 89 Caprice Police NYPD car. The interior is, even the switches are from 1989. The light bar is from 1988, fully restored by me. I do light bars. If you want to see, I got a bunch in the corner there. One of them is actually Eddie's. It's just, you know what it is? I believe that the history of this job, it's very important. Unfortunately, we don't have a museum anymore because after Sandy, the first precinct, the original, flooded and the foundation cracked. So everything had to be taken out of there and put in storage. There was a sergeant in the 107 precinct, John Schroeder. He's retired now. If you went there, it's the borough. Every floor, including the muster room, is a walk through NYPD history. You go in the muster room, there is actually a TS, a telephone switchboard that they took out of a command. There is a saddle from a horse. There's every light bar we ever used. Go to the second floor. That's the New York City Transit Museum. Go to the third floor, it's housing. Then there's a wall of every cop that was killed in Queens. It's unbelievable. And then if you work there and your dad was on the job, right? And you're in your office, like the borough commander, there'd be a picture of your father outside, and it says inside is the son of so and so.
Oh, cool.
And it was that old choker uniform picture.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he was so into the history. He had a car too, which he sold. That's why when I was in the 105, even Auto Crime, I had a beautiful museum. You would have loved it. But when I went to the 105, I tried to tell a story. So when the cops come upstairs, there's a green, black, and white on the Grand Central Parkway with two cops leaning against it. It says 105 Precinct. Just to let you know that there was a job before you got here, and there'll be a job here when you're gone. But you should honor the memory because everything you are wearing has a meaning. I even had a tribute to Scott Goodell when they had the revolvers and he got shot in the head
I remember that.
trying to load his gun. That led to the speed loaders. I mean, these are little things in history that you should pay attention to. So I'm all about the job and preserving it as much as I can. It's not cheap and it's not easy finding parts, but whatever we can't find, we try to make. Like I said, we just did 2 Grand Furies. One was a highway car. I installed the McDermott on that and the interior. And what else? Eddie Byrne's car is one of my biggest projects because of the amount of damage to that car. The amount of rot. But you know what? Every day I go there, I think I said I was never a boss on this job. But the guys that are working there, I have a bunch of Nassau County retired detectives. First thing in the morning is, what do you need us to do? And they just go in full force, get the job done, and then we call it a day. It's amazing. It really is. They are so invested in it because they know what the project means.
I got a theory on this, and I wanted to ask you first because you might know. Do you know why the NYPD got rid of the blue and white radio cars and went to this ridiculous white color?
Federal government.
Knew it. That's always been my theory.
It's but it's also a catch-22. So in 1973, when the job still had, 1972, they were green, black, and white. The federal government made them change them to this. They didn't exactly tell them to do blue and white, but they told them they needed to change the color of the car because they blended too much with society's cars. And no light bar is going to distinguish you from everything else. So the job chose this design.
Beautiful color.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So grab a blue from Ford. And the 15-inch shield is kind of like the 15-inch shield of yesteryear. See
Right.
that one?
Yeah.
So the patch came out in 1972. It was first adorned on one sleeve, same year as the leather jacket, the patrol jacket. And here's the crazy history I know. So if the federal government made them do this, so they did it. And then in 1995, they also found out that they would save $800 per car if they left them all white. So, but you think about it now. You get an all-white car. Look at how many stickers are on the car now. You got a blue stripe on top, a blue on the bottom. You got NYPD. You got a door shield. You got courtesy, professional, and respect. And then Ray Kelly changed it again because he pulled over a car to scratch them, and it turns out the trunk said police. It was a Port Authority car. So now we have to be different from everybody else. They put NYPD police on the cars. That's why you got it on the hood and the trunk. Now you have Twitter. Now you have Cop Shot. Then you also have PAL. And then you have the light in the back that says keep back or whatever. Do you know how much an upfit of a car now is? $30,000. Between the computer, the lights, the stickers, the whole package is $30,000 on top of the vehicle price. So I don't know how. I wish they would go back to this.
So do I.
It's just beautiful. You know, the positive is even like everywhere we go with these cars, it's just so positive. They love it. They think it's older than it is. When I tell them it's an 89, they're like, really?
Yeah, I know.
I think it's like a 70 something.
We're old.
Yeah. We actually have a Bubble Caprice. 1996, there's a guy who retired from Highway, restored it. It's gorgeous. All in all, we have about 31 cars in our fleet, all privately owned, all privately built. We go back to 1940, privately owned. It's a Plymouth two-door with the little red light that says police on the roof. Now, the job has the 30 Mac that they restored, that old green truck that ESU uses. And then we go all the way up to 1996 with the blue and whites. And each year is right. We have a Volare, we have Diplomats, we have Grand Furies, Caprices, we have Fury 1, 2, and 3s. We even have a Chevy Biscayne, beautiful, 1966, green, black, and white. And it's all guys that were on the job and are just, you love this, we have a K car.
Oh, I hate it, Dallas.
It's beautiful, though. It's fully
Before my
restored.
time, but I used to see them.
Oh, real piece of shit. But to have one restored, it's a blessing. It really is. Because you see it, and you're like, what?
Yeah, people wouldn't believe. Yeah, I remember growing up as a kid in the 4.5, they had one, and it It looked like a joke. It looked like something you deliver pizza in.
Yeah. We have 2 transit cars with the blue hood and the blue trunk. And we also have 1 housing car, but somebody's also in the process of building another housing car. And I have a 95 Caprice, the bubble. We haven't decided if we're going to do housing or transit. We're trying to get the hands on the transit bar. It's very rare and it's very expensive, but if I get it, it'll be right before the merge. It'll be the car right before with the stickers on the side and the transit. Yeah. So that's what because you got to remember that. And I think the guys that were in housing and transit prior to the merge, I actually work at one of them, will appreciate that the most because it was right before the hostile takeover. But it's represented. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember.
So, yeah. We just try to preserve the history, bro. That's all we're doing.
Jason, could you tell us again the name of your organization and where our listeners can buy a T-shirt to raise money or make a donation for your project to restore Edward Burns' police vehicle?
The main website to use would be Fund the First. Fund the First is a go-to for all law enforcement now, just in not New York City. They just set up a page for the officer that just died and the 2 officers in Manhattan that died 2 years ago. We set up that page, and it's amazing to just. I updated with pictures of the build, where we're at in the restoration. It's called fundthefirst.com, and in the search bar, just search for Police Officer Edward Byrne. It'll pop up. Also, the Facebook page, Police Officer Edward Byrne Foundation. You can direct message me through that or the messenger on that for shirts. And like I said, just give me a little time, and I'll eventually get to you. It's just a little overwhelming doing it by myself out of my house. I just had a reorder shirts for the 3rd time. It's going very well.
I hope so.
It is. And a lot of the people that worked in the 103 in the past, and a lot of guys are on the job at the time he died, it's been completely unbelievably positive. They love the fact that the car is being taken care of. In shock at the condition of it, that it got that way. But like I said, it took the right people. Even Commissioner Tisch, very supportive in the idea, loves the fact that we're doing it. And the Queen's DA's office was a little hesitant until they found out the condition of the car, and they're all for it as well. They signed all the paperwork. So we're hoping this is going to be a very, very beautiful, positive memorial for an officer. And being placed at the police academy is basically everything, because every new cop that comes through the door will see it. And every cop already on the job that goes for retraining will see it, and you'll never forget Eddie. So that's the main thing from the car. If people want to say, "Oh, you're doing this," it's not about me. It's about the job, and it's about him. It's always been about him. I got a picture of him here in my garage. Right, looks over the car, and right next to it is the picture of the funeral. And then every year I do the memorial. I park the car on the spot he was killed. And I was fortunate to know Larry Byrne, his brother, who became Deputy Commissioner of Legal Matters before he passed away of a heart attack. I got to be friends with Bill Bratton. I got to be friends with John Miller. I got to be friends with a lot of people I probably should never even had words with, all because of this and Eddie Byrne. I even have, a gift to me was, if you see it over there on the wall, it's a framed photo of the crime scene. And that was presented to me one night by Larry and by Bill Bratton in recognition of all the years that I've shown up with my car to honor Eddie's memory. So, like I said, I never wanted to add names, but unfortunately I knew Pete Fagosky. I worked with him. I didn't work partners with him, but I was there when he was there. Right. And then he got killed right after I went to Autocrime, right after 2011. And then Brian Moore, I had got assigned to the 105 squad in 2014. And in 2015, he died. And his cousin was my sergeant in the 7.5. And I was there that day. And we were there all night, obviously. It's just unfortunate that I have to add names to my call.
Well, we're going to see if we can raise some money for your project. I'm going to include the links.
I appreciate it very much.
On the bottom of this YouTube video. And Jason, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. It's really been a pleasure. You made me walk down memory lane in a good way. I liked it. So, absolutely.
As always, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, especially my listeners in Ada, Oklahoma, Pompton Plains, New Jersey, Pleasant Hill, Missouri, Russell, Ontario, and Cicero, New York. If you work in law enforcement and have an interesting criminal background, please drop me a note on Twitter or Instagram at VicFerrari50. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you enjoy the content, check out my Amazon author page. Type in my name, Vic, Ferrari like the car, where you can preview all my NYPD books for free. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you next week.